Nigeria's debt profile have rose to 6.69 trillion naira in 1 year. This is coming from the Debt Management Organization. Good morning. Welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television International, where we keep you up to date with what's happening from our Nigerian newspaper. I am Sele Elisha Dashram, and I have Rachel Tansi with me. Good morning,
Morning,
Rachel.
sir.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
Thank God it's weekend.
Thank God it's Friday. Yeah.
Of course. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube. You can do well. Drop your comment or your contribution on any story that's of interest to you. And as usual, later on the show, we'll open the phone line so you can be, part of the conversation taking place here in the studio. And let's move through the papers. Rachel, start with the Metrics newspaper.
On the Matrix newspaper, those plotting interim government under Buhari are daydreaming, a statement coming from Lalong. Buhari ensured I lost re-election for opposing Naira redesign policy, dragging him to Supreme Court. This is coming from Matawale. You can find the details on page 8. Market capitalization gains 441 billion naira amidst buy interest in Owando and MTN. Bukayo Saka, best player apart from Messi. This is coming from Tony Adams. And you can read why he's saying that on page 15. PDP reverses suspension of Fayose Ayim. Others attempt to no longer face disciplinary committee. Suspends ward ESCO that suspended IU. And you can start with the story on the front page and continue on page 4. The big story on the Matrix newspaper, how Nigeria's debt profile rose by 6.69 trillion naira in 1 year, report coming from the DMO. The writer following that says concern as debt profile hit 46.25 trillion naira. National Assembly shops for new loan after China rejected earlier approved $22 billion loan request. CSOs pinpoint legislative action as panacea to Nigeria's rising debt profile. Sanwo-Olu, Hamzat, Obasa, others receive certificate of return from INEC. Federal government to create portal for senior citizens to work after retirement. The details can be found inside the paper on page 4. Supreme Court throws out Nwajibu suit seeking Tinubu Atiku disqualification. The details can be found on page 34. At the downside of the paper, Code of Conduct Bureau invites Keyamo, sets to probe Atiku over SPV saga. We have a picture story where we can see Sanwo-Olu gets certificate of return, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
And on the Nation newspaper, PDP lifts suspension on IUM and Fayose. IU's ward EXCO suspended. You can find more on page 5. APC US condemn anti-Tinubu protests. UBA delivers 201 billion naira full-year profit. First Bank OK's name change, UK African subsidiaries. You can find all of that on page 7. Lagos government ready for above normal rainfall emergencies. You can find more of that story on page 27. The big story for the nation, Sagi Abakuba Falana, interim government unknown to law. With the right of Linda story, legal giants seek trial of plotters. And Lalon is saying interim government schemers daydreaming. It's been a while I've not heard from the governor of Plateau State, so we're happy he's actually giving more on that story. And we have a caption that say, we must all reject this nonsense and respect our constitution, which has no provision for interim arrangement. You can start that story on the front page and continue to read that on page 4. CCB begins probe of Kenyamu's anti-graft petition against Tinubu. And we have public debt now 45 trillion naira, says the DMO, with the writer saying China declined to give $22 billion loan won't affect the federal government. Downside of the paper, we have Lagos government effort to discredit Sanwo-Olu victory will fail. If you want to know more about that story, you can read that on page 27. We can see picture stories showing the various governors, Governor Abiodun and also Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos receiving their certificate of return yesterday. That's all on the Nation newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Second term re-election victory, Abiodun Sanwo-Olu to exceed expectation of electorate. This is coming from the Basco. Full year 2022, UBA delivers strong results as profit hit 201 billion naira. And the big story on the paper, PDP launches reconciliation, reverses suspension of Fayose Ayim and others, suspends investigation of Ortom by disciplinary committee, calls for synergy in Atiku's battle to reclaim lost election bid. The details can be found on page 3. Next 4 years will be more rewarding, Sanwo-Olu declares as governor. GPT pick INEC certificate. Engineer Dom Okafor pays courtesy visit to Special Education Center for Deaf and Dumb. This is coming at Umochu. And we have a Femi Adesina's column at the back of the paper. Do well to get Nigerian news direct for yourself. And the last story, Galaxy Backbone utilizes cloud computing international standards to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. We have picture stories showing governors of Osun and Lagos collecting their certificate of return. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On Daily Independent newspaper, Nigerians in U.S. get permission to protest the 2023 presidential poll results. Kwankwaso berates Buhari over outcome of the 2023 elections, says result of exercise not reflection of Nigerians' wish. You can start on the front page and more on page 4. The big story, PDP cancel Fayose Shema Ayim suspension after IU's exit. And we have the writer that says reverses reference of Governor Ortom to National Disciplinary Committee, recognize implementiveness of total reconciliation among party leaders. Vested interest behind massive deforestation, charcoal business. This is coming from the federal government. Accuses governors over flooding and erosion. You have to read more of that on page 29. And Nigerians' debt stock hit 46 trillion naira coming from the DMO. Dangote lists 300 billion naira series 1.2 largest bond on NGX and FMDX, coming more of that on page 7. Union vow to resist planned demolition of aviation agency office in Lagos. Coming from Anyocha, IU Benue PDP suspend Aguru ward executives. You have to read more of that also on page 7. And we have a caption that says alleged Atiku's SPV, CCB summon Kenyamu, asked him to produce Achimogu. And we have downside of the paper, UBA delivers strong result as profit hit 201 billion naira. We still have the picture story showing the governor of Lagos receiving his certificate of return. And that's all on Daily Independent.
On Leadership newspaper, Nigeria's debt stock grows by 20% to 46.25 trillion naira. UBA profits hit 201 billion in 2022, declares 90k final dividend. And the big story, post-election crisis. In face-saving move, PDP forgives Fayose, Sema, Ortom, and others. You can find the details on page 4. Damagun consolidates to reunite Atiku and G5. Benue PDP suspend Eager rough ward executives. How we survive rough political tough, Ireti Adebula and others. At the downside of the paper, bandits take 49 Niger villagers to Zamfara forest, demand 30 million naira. SPV saga, conduct bureau invites Keyamo over petition against Atiku. We have a column that says Trump indicted over hush money, 2 porn stars, and you can find the details on page 4, and that's all the news on leadership.
On the Punch newspaper, OPS predict woe as national debt hit 46 trillion naira. And on election tribunal, Tinubu gets Atiku and Obi's petition. You can find that story on page 26. Controversy surrounds Silva's alleged resignation. Read more of that on page 10. The big story is still on the PDP saga. IU PDP notifies IM Fayosha suspension, sanction board ESCO. With the rider opposition party lists ex-Christina governor, 4 others as peace moves begin. Party reverses autumn summon to face disciplinary panel seek members' unity. You read more of that story on page 2. Sanwo-Olu, Makinde, others get certificate of return pledge good governance. Ondo chapter tackles Adebajo over Afenifere chief tithes, and still on the issue from the Chrisland school, Winnie Lagos arraigned Chrisland principal and others for manslaughter. You can read more of that story on page 4 and 5. And we have coming from the cleric in regard to Ramadan, Muslims couple can get intimate after breaking their fast. You can read more of that story on page 12, and that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, Nigeria's total debt stock hit 46.25 trillion naira. Migration, federal government moves against illegally employed foreigners, and the details can be found on page 3. Tension as sheikhs clash with police in Abuja. UBA posts strong for the 2022 earnings as profit hits 201 billion naira. The big story on New Telegraph, Concoso, if Buhari wanted free, fair, credible polls, he would have it. And the writer says Tinubu can't lead without people's acceptance. INEC abandoned constitutional responsibility coming from Senator Yusuf. Supreme Court dismisses Nwajibo's suit challenging Tinubu's candidacy. The details can be found on page 2 and 7. Coming from Matawale, how new Naira policy cost me re-election. COVID-19 benefits scam, AFCC arraigns Ibadan club owner for defrauding Americans. Technical glitches, jam to reschedule mock UTME for affected candidates. The details can be found on page 8 if you have been affected. Ocean records 29,936 persons living with HIV and AIDS. PDP overrules IU, reserves IM, Fayoshe Shema, order suspension. The details for this story, saga, and up and down can be found on page 2 and 7 in the New Telegraph newspaper. Still on insecurity, NAF strike kills cause of terrorism. At the downside of the paper, we have a study. Lack of sleep could lead to bare belly, and that details can be found on page 26. And that's all the news on New Telegraph.
Before we move further, Rachel, this coming from Matawadi, it was on the first paper we took, which was the metrics, and then it's still on the same paper. And you know what came to my mind was the fact that Matawale is saying how the Naira policy cost him this re-election. Yesterday we saw in the paper when he said he's tired of being the governor of Zamfara State. That is to say that he just can't wait for May 29 to hand over. And it's obvious he's not happy with the federal government because he felt I think he was among the three, him, governor of Kaduna, and also one other governor were the ones who dragged the federal government, of course, to they dragged them to court regarding the Naira redesign, asking the fact that the Nigerians are going through hard time. Let's have the old currency back. And he feels that it's as a result of that, that cost him his re-election. But I believe that it's not about that.
It's not about that.
The people of Zamfara have actually stated who they want to be. And so I'm just hoping that leaders will go to a place where you don't have to push blame for whatever misfortune happens to you. Of course, it's normal as human that when you don't get to win, we have a way of expressing our grievances in different ways, but not regarding, I think, with the few months left, because today is the end of March, we have April and then May. There's still 2 months for the governor to do something, and I hope that the people of Zamfara will not suffer as a result. I stated this when we had some of the governors that were being re-elected and some that were not re-elected, and I said this shouldn't be a time where we see the citizens or the indigents of that state suffering because they did not vote you in. Rather, see it as a way of the people expressing what they want, and I see it as a way of going back to have a reflective moment, resolve and see what can I do different, how can I contribute regardless of whether I'm in position or not. So I hope that in leadership, totally, I'm just bringing this as a way
Yeah.
of saying that we do not have to look for a reason why we feel we're not being. Rather, let's be sober and then, go back, have, everything and say, what can you do differently? You can always give back to the society, whether you're in a position
Oh
or not.
no.
So I hope that leadership will get to that point, not about whether it's a do or die or I
Oh
must be
no.
the governor or
Yeah.
anything like that.
And of course, the money scarcity is just an excuse. The people clearly voted who they want into power because it was Zamfara, Kaduna, and Kogi State that were in the forefront. However, for Kaduna, they got who they wanted, that is from El-Rufai, got his candidate elected. Kogi State also won the election, and I would like to say the naira scarcity didn't stop at Zamfara alone. Every other politician went through the election with the same struggle every other politician faced, and those who emerged winner emerged regardless of what was happening, and the people elected who they wanted. So yes, it's obvious that you can't blame your failure to win, to come out as the chosen one to the naira scarcity, because it was a problem all around for everybody. And then those who would win won, and the people chose who they wanted to rule them. But just as you said, Sele, I think it all boils down to us doing what we need to do as Nigerians, because it doesn't matter whether I'm in a valuable position. I should contribute my own part to the growth and success of Nigeria. I think that's what patriotism is all about. That's what it means to truly have Nigeria in mind. That I don't have to be the governor before of course, I know when you are at that position, the impact is more. But we've seen change drivers in different levels that have created an impact, and you don't have to sit back and let things happen because you didn't get the chance to be where you want to. Another thing, Sarah, that has been on our papers that I would like us to talk a little bit about it is the debt profile of the country. It's outrageous, Sarah. It looks like our 5-year budget because reaching about. So it feels like that side to be able to fund our budget. So it's like this might be the current debt profile with 45 trillion, 46 trillion rather. But imagine we now China didn't approve the request we made, and we can see on the paper that we are out for debt hunting. If China won't give us, Nigeria is out to find other countries that will give them. So it means for now it's 46, but come next year, if we find other countries that are willing to give us money, it's definitely going to increase. And I keep saying we know the problem, right? We know we have a debt profile, but I'm looking forward to where those who are in charge will tell us how do we plan on paying off this debt. Because I believe that we know our problem as a country. Can we be more solution driven than problem driven? Is not we should stop emphasizing on the problem. We don't even have to emphasize them. It's in our face. We are facing it every single day. Is there looking. We're obviously going out looking for money to borrow. So it means this debt profile, whether it's on the paper or not, is going to keep increasing, and we are consciously and subconsciously aware of that. But let us be solution driven. What is the way forward? Why is the finance ministry, the CBN, the federal government, why is nobody talking about how we plan on settling this debt, rather than just what we have more emphasis on us going out to hunt for who will give us debt because China has rejected our request. So I'm just looking forward to where we know how we are going to become a debt-free country, because it seems like we're doing okay, but we're literally living and surviving on borrowed funds. We are literally embezzling borrowed funds. We're literally living a lavish lifestyle, and we see how our lawmakers and executives are living, the kind of allowances they get. We are all living a lavish lifestyle on borrowed funds. How do we plan on settling this debt? What is the way forward for Nigeria? Rather than talking of how we're hunting for others who will give us money, why are we not talking about how we plan on settling this debt? I'm just looking forward to that kind of news from the federal government, rather than telling us that they are going out to look for who will give them money because China didn't give them.
Rachel, I was trying to run away from this, but you just have to bring it up.
Yes.
And we have to talk about it. Whether I run away from it or whether Nigeria run away from it, we have to face our reality. We have to come to an understanding that really we need help.
We do.
When I mean help, it's not about running to look for who is the next nation that can actually borrow us.
Yes.
We needed about $22 billion from China, and we were rejected. I always make reference. I remember categorically when the present Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, said, we shouldn't deceive ourselves. Nigeria is poor. I was angry, extremely angry, Rachel, because I refuse to associate myself with such statement that Nigeria is poor. Rachel, you could remember that we together we listed what Nigeria is blessed with. We have crude oil, we have rubber, we have various natural resources. We're looking at various cash crops,
like cash crops,
cashew.
Yeah.
We're looking at the likes of cocoa.
Yeah.
We're even looking at palm
oil.
oil.
Of course, it is.
We're looking at so many cash crops.
Yeah, we have a lot of
and
cash.
Just like you said, we are living a lavish lifestyle on borrowed money.
Yes, we are.
Of course, other nations will refuse us because if you see the way we live a very large life, of course, it looks like we have all the money.
Yeah.
Nigeria's present budget was on deficit. We didn't even have enough money to budget our own whatever we needed for the country. We saw that education did not get the proper location it's supposed to have. Our health sector did not get the proper. Are we going to look at security? Are we going to look at various sectors in Nigeria that are supposed to be given proper attention, but we've not seen the attention given to it? And of course, if you will ask, we'll hear question, we'll hear response like we do not have what it is. Why am I bringing this up is because, Rachel, we have to wake up. I keep saying this. We are sleeping.
We are.
And we're yet to realize what is actually facing us. Who are we expecting to pay this debt? Are you asking your children, grandchildren to come and pay this debt? It's just like you, Rachel, borrowing 100 naira. And you don't even know how you'll be able to pay, or even if you're able to pay, all you'll be able to make is just 1 naira interest out of it. You're not making anything out of it, no profit whatsoever. So I'm just, looking forward to where we'll wake up, because we've heard of nations that because they have borrow and then before they realize it, a particular sector is being given away to the government. Let that not be our own story eventually. We have all that it takes, but we keep saying here, Rachel, we looked at when our naira was getting devalued. We mentioned here some of the solutions that we can come up. We keep saying, let us consume what we are producing. We are tired of hearing our leaders telling us something they are not practicing. When you say, let us consume our local rice, let us see everybody eating the local rice. Let's not see any imported rice coming. We import things even as little as frozen chicken. Fish and so many things. I begin to answer why. Looking, we have very proper, we saw, was it last year on the paper where we saw some of our textile industry coming out to protest because the industry has gone down, like nobody's saying anything about it. Completely. Why not let us, revitalize all of this and wake them up? We saw Pengassan saying that we should stop, paying for subsidy and let us wake our refineries up. We can do all of this thing. Richard, imagine when our refineries are working. We're selling cash crops. We're producing our own material, textile, materials here. All of this, we consume what we have here. And then we work on having finished goods and then we send it over to the country. We'll not be borrowing money. We have all that we need to be able to take care of our stuff by ourselves. So I'm really hoping, at this moment, I'm becoming extremely emotional because it's really, really sad. But I hope that this will be a wake-up call to us. We've seen that our debt profile in just a year is 6.69 trillion just in a year. So, Rachel, when other things we begin to see that our debt profile is going up and up and up, and they begin to ask, how are we intending to pay this? So I hope that the government, because right now it's not about the present administration anymore, it's about the incoming administration. How are you intending to pay all of this debt? This is a question that I believe every Nigerian is asking, and I also believe that we need proper answers. So I hope that the government will really realize that we really have a lot of work on our hands, and we
do.
have to wake up
Yeah.
and tie our belts and do all that is needed. Well, Rachel, before we move to other papers, I think we've said a lot, so
Said a
we'd like
lot,
to hear
yeah.
from our viewers. Please do remember to drop your comment. And also, when we are back from the break, we'd love to hear you by calling us on our numbers that will be displayed later on. Please do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break. Thank you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on Echo Television, your favorite station where we keep you up to date with what is happening from our papers. We've seen our debt profile. Presently, we have about 6.69 trillion naira just in a year. And then we've also seen the PDP crisis saga for those who have been returned to the party and those who are still under suspension. You know, a lot of stories on the papers. We've also seen where the Zamfara governor have said because of the Naira redesign, he failed the re-election in Zamfara State. So these and many other stories are what we have on the paper this morning. Please, our phone numbers are open at this moment. You can do well to call us. We'd love to hear what your contributions are. Please do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set when you call us or move away, because we would love to hear from you, and also our viewers will love to hear from you. I still have Rachel with me here in the studio. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this
You're
with me.
welcome, Seven.
All right, let's move to the next paper, which is the Guardian newspaper. First Bank rebrand subsidiaries in UK and others. You can find more of that story on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Aviation workers berate Saraka, vow to resist demolition of Lagos offices. You can find that story on page 7. Government, financial institution and others on alert as attack on biometric rights. You can find that story on page 5 also. Tech hitches Mer, we have UTME mock exams. You can find that also on page 3. The big story on the Guardian newspaper: obedient protests in US. Labour Party distances itself from interim government plot. All right, Mr. Shamal, good morning. Go on, please.
Okay. Hello, Sele.
Yes, Shamal, I'm with you. 2 days. Please
Honestly,
go on.
I appreciate your analysis this
Yes,
morning.
sir.
My contribution to the paper review this morning is that Nigerians are not getting it right. You can imagine the debt profile rising every month, every year. We have leadership that cannot even make the citizenry feel happier. If things are going on like this, I don't know what Nigeria will become tomorrow. Debt piling every day, and Nigerians are not smiling. And all this money they are collecting, what are they using this money for? You can't even see infrastructure on ground. Rather, they collect this money and embezzle this money. They collect this money and keep this money for their families to come. Because if a single individual can embezzle 192 billion from the treasury of Nigeria, then what do you think of others? That is the one that is known. So I don't know where we are going in this country. I pray that we get it right. As you rightly analyzed, the next coming government are the one that will suffer it. They collect this money, they handle the way they handle it. The next regime that are coming, the leadership that will come, if they are not people that can work very hard to save this country, we are going seriously to be in dilemma. I pray that God will see them through, God will work for us, we that are citizens, so that we have better leadership in this country. Good morning, my sisters.
Thank you so much, Shamal, for that very, great contribution. Still on the Guardian newspaper, we have anchoring Africans' development further on diasporans' shoulders. You can read that big story on page 4 and 5. downside of the paper, UBA posts 201 billion naira profit, declares 90k dividend. You can find more of that story on page 7. That's all. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. We can hear you.
Hello.
We're with you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello. Okay. Good morning, Sele. Good morning, Ms. Richards.
Good morning.
I'm Sam. Okay, Sam, I come from Jigo Buhari here in Abuja. And I want to contribute my own quota to the daily press this morning. Now, I want to talk on the Matawadli, who said he lost his election because of the Naira issues. On another area, he blamed even the President Muhammad Buhari because he was part of those governors that sued the CBN and the federal government. You know, Sele and Richard, the rest of us, we suffer because of the political immaturities of our citizens. You know, when a politician goes to the poll, he's coming with other you know, policies, a new entrant that I will do this and I'm going to do that. And in a re-election period, he has to account for whether he has been able to keep up those promises. And those who are on will now defend that have done well in my previous. You see, in Nigeria, we all suffer because we are a society that don't know the value of data. If we know the value of data, it then means every state will have to be able to keep its own socioeconomic indicator before a new herdsman comes on and know where the country, the state or the country is before he take over. And after 4 years, we can evaluate based on whether he has done any improvement on those socioeconomic indicators or he has made things worse. Okay, but here in this country, in this country, we have a situation whereby nobody does anything. You just come in and you come in, you told them they have done well. APC hasn't done anything well. You look at this thing. You are just talking about the trillions of this thing. They came in when the debt was 12 trillion, and we are now going for almost 16 trillion from China. And nobody is talking of how this thing is going to be repaid. Now nobody is looking at your children. We are enslaving the future generation. Nobody is talking about it. You can see that APC is still winning election here and there. Are those citizens belonging to another economy? Are they buying Gary from another market? And they see what all of us are going on. The joy of politics is that when the last team did not do well, you send them back home, you then bring another people on board so that those who have gone away will learn and say, oh, I will come back again. But here, all of us, we are suffering because there are people who don't do the whole essence of democracy, that you have the right to be able to change the course of your own destiny. And that's why the rest of us are suffering. APC did not do well, but they are looking for excuses here and there. But that will not all go well, because we are praying that let this, what is in the court today, let the due diligence be done. The DSS should not be seen to be taking side. If the DSS has done his own work, and you are a secret police, and you have investigated every person, go and submit your investigation to the police if you feel you cannot arrest. But we know that this DSS has started breaking, way back in 2016, started breaking into judges' home because they want to do arrest in what they call sting operation. Why is the DSS now coming and now hitting up the policy? If you are doing your investigation well, then rein in those people that you feel that have done this thing, and not just throwing the whole place in panic, just because of people are doing their own legitimate political rally to say, the voting we have done, let it be realistic. We pray that we have a better country where the government agencies work for everybody and not for a few individuals. Thank you. I do have a good morning press review.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
Mr.
for
Sam.
that contribution.
Excellent. You just said a lot that are so on point, and we can't neglect the fact that what are the socio-economic indicators that we use to say a government have tried? What was the situation before the administration, what was the situation that the past administration left, and what are you, the current administration, about to leave to us? What are the yardstick we are using to measure that this current administration have done well? There should be measure. This is our economy. We have numbers, we have statistics, we have measurement that we can use. What was our debt profile before they came in, and what are they leaving to us within a period of 8 years? How was our Naira? What did they do to make it better? what was the standard of living in the country when you met it, and what is the standard of living you are living for Nigerians? These are all the things that we need to look. We have a
call.
caller.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, I'm calling from Benue.
Good morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Steven. I'm calling from Benue.
All right, go on, please.
I want to tell you people one thing. I saw something in newspaper this morning that senior citizens should prepare senior citizens to come back to work. They should be given work. We are not interested in any work in Nigeria anymore. They should pay us our full gratuity and remove us from PECOM. PECOM is stealing our money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sele, the problems in Nigeria are much, and I keep looking forward to where we'll have the solution. Now, this is where a senior citizen is saying they don't need a portal for them to work after retirement. They have a gratuity that this is their entitlement. They have not seen it. They have their pension that has been deducted from them for years of service, and they are not seeing it. I don't think any senior citizen will be happy hearing that the government is trying to create for them to work after retirement rather than giving them what is theirs. I'm just looking forward to a system that will work for us as a country, Sally. I'm truly looking forward to that.
You know.
Yes.
Well, let's just move further to the next paper.
On Nigerian Tribune, African leaders must take urgent steps to stem Japartide. This is coming from Owolowo Dosumi. Task government to leverage digital technologies in public service and other sectors. NURTW threatens showdown with Ondo government over park managers. UBA's profit hits 201 billion naira. The big story on Nigerian Tribune, Nigeria's public debt rises to 46.25 trillion naira. The details can be found on page 6. PDP quashes suspension of Shema, Fayose, and Ayim, reverses Autumn's referral to disciplinary committee. Supreme Court dismisses ex-ministers in Wajobu suit seeking to disqualify Tinubu and Atiku. The last story on the Nigerian Tribune, interim government unconstitutional. Whoever calls for it commits felony and treason. This is coming from Abakoba, Aliyu Oyorinde, and others. We are not part of insurrection plans. This is coming from Labour Party. The details can be found on page 12, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On this day newspaper, full year 2022, UBA delivers strong result as profit hit 201 billion naira, declares 90 kobo final dividend, total asset rise by 27.2%. Debt profile, we have DMO, new borrowing, promissory note, and others pushing Nigeria's public debt to 46.25 trillion naira. You can read that on page 10. And then we're having other stories here where we have PDP National Working Committee reverses IU decision on Autumn, Shema, Ayim, Fayose, and others. International world, we have Donald Trump indicted by Mahatma grand jury, may face over 30 counts of business-related fraud, with the writer former U.S. President fires back, says it's witch hunt that will backfire massively on Joe Biden. You can read the international story on page 5. No constitutional provision for interim government. It's nonsense, with the writer. It's an idea not visible under Buhari, says Lalong. CD dismisses it as unwarranted, unnecessary, and subversive. The SS report is fake. All right. Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Sunday from Kogi State.
All right, go on, please.
So what I want to say is this, that there's nothing like a plan for interim. They are afraid of what they are doing. All those is a rumor of nothing. Their plan has failed them, and they don't know what to do. They say there's something like interim government. Is a
I don't know what I would call it. It's a stupid talk. There's nothing like that. They are afraid of what has happened to Nigeria. I think somebody tell us to the category here say that North is born to rule, that there's no how that Igbo man will take over this country. I told him that Igbo can go there. But now they say interim government. It's a lie. It's a lie. Take up. When they bring those people to the book, make we see. It's a lie. They're afraid of that election that passed. Thank you, my God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And then still under the big story, we have a writer that said DSS report is fake. Plot to arrest Atiku. Obi alleges Frank. And you can read more of that. We still have the picture story. Sanwo-Olu gets certificate of return. And that's all on this day newspaper.
On Dailies newspaper, Nigerians in U.S. secure permit to protest over February 25th election. The big story, interim government allegation ploy to arrest opposition coming from Atiku.
Okay. Hello, good morning.
Now,